Comments for the week ending December 11th from the beef farmers of Ontario. There were 382 head of fed steers and heifers sold through auction markets last week, down 44 head from the previous week. Fed steers averaged 300.33 per hundredweight, up 10.21 per hundred, and fed heifers averaged 298.65 per hundredweight, up 9.71 per hundred from the previous week's trade. Auction markets reported that fed steers and heifers sold actively $2 to $3 per hundredweight higher. In Ontario, light trade has been reported at $500 per hundredweight delivered, $10 per hundredweight stronger than the previous week. Cattle that traded would be picked up in 1 to 2 weeks. Light volumes of Eastern Canadian fed cattle were marketed south. Depending on freight and dressing percentage, sales were working back to around $304 per hundredweight FOB the feedlot. For the week ending November 29th, Eastern fed cattle and cow exports to the U.S. were 4,276 head, 24% above last year and 58% above the 5-year average. Year-to-date, Eastern fed cattle and cow exports were up 1% from last year. Cull cow receipts sold through auction markets last week were 2,610 head, down 156 head from the previous week. Cows averaged 163.99 per hundredweight, up 144 per hundred. Beef cows averaged 171.44 per hundredweight, up 202 per hundred from the previous week's trade. Auction markets reported on Tuesday that fed cows sold $3 to $5 per hundredweight higher. By Thursday, fed cows sold at steady prices. Total receipts were 8,451 head last week. Receipts of 3,860 stocker and feeder cattle sold through Ontario auction markets, down 631 head from the previous week. Auction markets reported on Friday, December 5th, that calves and yearlings were selling on a stronger market with good buyer demand. By Thursday, stockers sold stronger. The Quebec electronic market prices were not available at press time. Last week, Alberta fed steer and heifer prices closed the week averaging on either side of $2.90 per hundredweight, around $6 per hundredweight stronger than the previous week. Dressed sales were reported from $4.85 to $4.90 per hundredweight delivered, $5 to $10 per hundredweight higher. Cattle that traded were being scheduled for delivery from late December into January. There were reports that one packer was not as active on the market last week. By Wednesday, December 10th, light trade developed, with dressed sales reported from $4.93 to $4.95 per hundredweight delivered, $5 to $8 per hundredweight higher than the previous week. For the week ending December 6th, Western Canadian fed processing was 39,538 head, 1.6% lower than last year. The U.S. cash cattle trade last week saw dressed sales in Iowa and Nebraska reported from $3.53 to $3.55 per hundredweight, $10 to $15 per hundredweight higher than the previous week. Early week sales in the north were at $2.26 per hundredweight to $2.27. However, by Thursday, sales jumped to $2.30 per hundredweight. Live sales in Texas and Kansas were at $2.30 per hundredweight, $4 to $5 per hundredweight stronger. USDA released its World Supply and Demand report late last week. Beef production for 2026 was revised higher behind larger carcass weights. The most dramatic change was on beef imports. U.S. beef imports were increased by 10 percentage points, or 500 million pounds on the recent removal or lowering of tariffs for certain countries. U.S. beef imports for 2026 are now forecast to be 2% larger than 2025. This is Jamie Kerr with the Beef Farmers of Ontario Market Information Report.